Okay, I think I am live. So let's get crack-a-lackin', everybody. All right, so today I wanted to talk about NPCs, as you guys can see from the picture, and spreading awareness because I've seen a lot of stuff online and I just want to streamline everything. I want to compact all the information. So it might seem like a lot, but again, people should know about these things. We need to know what's going on. What is the truth? What is the reality of this world? What is the reality of, again, this realm that we're in? So, NPC, non-player character are real things, and in your day-to-day life, in your spiritual journey, you might come across people that literally come up to you. They literally come up to you and they tell you some sort of message. They might tell you, "Oh, you look like this. You look like you're a good person. You look like you're going to become something great in life." Or they'll just give you some sort of message while you're in your day-to-day life, acting just like an NPC. And we need to realize that we're in the holographic reality, we're in the holographic world, and there are people out there with no souls. There are people out there, okay, that were manufactured. There are people, again, that are living amongst us that are not really there. They're not really there. They could easily phase out of reality. And also, there are people that are born incarnated, but they have no soul. Like I said, they're the soulless being. And this is what I want to talk about specifically as well is the this group of people, these groups of people that have no soul, that have no ascension whatsoever, who were manufactured, okay? And this has been going on again in Babylonian times, Anunnaki times, whatever you want to call them having test tube babies, them literally having test tube babies, cloning, cloning again, where usually clones don't really have the same emotions, they don't have the same soul as the person that they're cloned from. So, anyways, guys, this is what I want to talk about today. Highly recommend that you watch the full thing. You can pause, you can come back to the video, you can come back and watch the other parts of the video. But I want to go through, I want to give a concise overview, and then you guys can do your own research about what are NPCs, what are these soulless people that are just walking around. Okay, they're walking around, they're a part of the population, and I know some people are going to try to rage bait and be like, "Oh, there's only 10% of the people living on earth are the only ones that are truly here," and we don't know yet. We will not know until the very end. Okay, the so-called revelations times that we're living right now is when we will know, oh, those people, they were not really living. They weren't really here. Um So yeah, let's talk about the Elohim. Let's talk about the Demiurgos, and the Elohim is, or the Demiurgos or the Elohim is a plural term, so the gods that came down to earth, and they are considered the creators of us, okay? The likeness of the Elohim there appeared, one having the body of a human with four wings, the face of a man, a lion, and an ox and eagle. So this is the description of the Demiurgos. A lot of people are going to say this is the creator of our modern day human, our modern day planet. And a lot of people liken, again, the Demiurgos to Enlil, but not always. And again, the Elohim is plural, so we know that there are many Anunnaki. There are many that fell from the sky. There are many that came down and decided to genetically modify and genetically do their little laboratory experiments on us. And they also inserted their own culture, their own ways of being on us because we were very enlightened beings before they came down to Earth. But they wanted to use us again as slaves. They wanted to use us for their own likeness, for their own whatever they wanted, their own whims. So that is what happened with the Elohim. So, I wanted to talk about the Gnosis, and a lot of your Kabbalistic knowledge or information is going to say that the Gnosis, again, is when you reach liberation, when you finally reach your highest potential, spiritual potential. And we can see the symbolism of, again, the snake. And in the middle of the snake, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see it. In the middle of the snake is the black hole. Is the black hole. When you go back and you reach that 0 point energy, when you reach back to the creator, because everything surrounding the toroidal field, the whole of creation, the cosmic egg, whatever you want to call it, all of this is just coming back to the center. We're always gonna come back to this center. And people that do not have the capacity to reach this center, they have no likeness to the creator. They have no source. They have nothing, they have no connection to source. They don't have any gnosis. Okay, again, it says right here, the experience is what compromises the apex of the hero's journey and is the root of religion. By nature, it's abstract and too difficult to put into words. So they have the symbolism, okay? Gnosis requires one to confront inner darkness and resolve inner conflict. It is the ultimate reconciliation of self. It is where all the inauthentic and false is destroyed to allow the best of our nature to be fully realized. People that are not going to, again, they're not going to look at their shadows, they're not going to realize the self, they're not going to go back to the God self, and they're not going to destroy, they're not going to resolve this inner conflict because they are incapable. Okay, whether it's genetically they're incapable, or again, they decide they don't want to. They don't want to do this. This means that they slowly become soulless. Okay, their soul, the spirit is going to, again, has no potential in this body, in this frame. So they are just NPCs. Okay? They're not resolving their inner darkness. They're just playing the program. They're just playing the character that they were set up to be. And you guys can see this in your real life, okay? There are people in your life. They go about their lives. They never try to change anything. They just do the same cycle over and over again. Okay, they never reach a point of any enlightenment. There's no revelations. It's just kind of the same repetition of cycles, if I can say the word. And it always rhymes. The same cycles rhyme and rhyme and rhyme. So slowly the spirit is going to not be in that body. That spirit is just going to give up on that person, and and that person slowly becomes a shell of themselves. And again, they just become the character or the programming that was set out for them. So let's look at what's going on. I wanted to read you guys this quote really quick, so let's look at the quotes. Let me see. Let me zoom up a little bit more. Okay, Ildabath, whom several sects regarded as the god of Moses, was not a pure spirit. He was ambitious, proud, and rejecting the spiritual light of the middle space offered by his mother, Sophia Akamah. He set himself to create a world of his own. Aided by his sons, the six planetary genii, he fabricated man, but this one proved a failure. It was a monster, a soulless, ignorant, and crawling on all fours on the ground like a material beast. Ildebaoth was forced to implore the help of his spiritual mother. She communicated to him that a ray of her divine light, and so animated man and endowed him with a soul. And now began the animosity of Ildebaoth towards his own creature. Following the impulse of the divine light, man soared higher and higher in his aspirations. Very soon he began presenting not die image of his creator Ildebaoth, but rather the supreme being, the primitive man, Inoaya. Then the demiurge ghost was filled with rage and envy, and fixing his evil eye, jealous eye on the abyss of matter, his look envenomed with passion were suddenly reflected in it as in a mirror. The reflection became animate, and there arose an abyss, Satan's serpents. Ophimorphous, the embodiment of envy and cunning. Here is the union of that in the most base in matter with the hate, envy, and craft of the spiritual intellect. Okay, so again, we see the same story playing out. Again, you could say the creator, so-called demiurge ghost that's referred to here is the god of Moses. Again, Enlil, the god that was in the burning bush. All is the same. And whenever they start to create beings, whenever you start cloning, whenever you start creating material beast without the help of a divine feminine, it's not created in a divine womb. This is when things start to happen. Shit hits the fan. So this is what happened with, again, a certain race of people that are still on the planet, even though most of us are mixed and there's not a clear line of the monster that was created, but there are NPCs. There are people that still embody that dark energy, that still embody this so-called soulless, ignorant, animal-like man. Okay? So, page 184 from Isis Unveiled. And last thing I wanted to show you guys was this really quick. And I gotta zoom in. Okay. Living soulless men and women, our present cycle is preeminently one of soul deaths. We elbow soulless. Okay, I want you to like look at that. We literally are next to them every single day. We're nearby them every single day. We elbow soulless men and women at every step of life. Neither can we wonder, in the present state of things, at the gigantic failure of Hegel and Schilling's last efforts at some metaphysical construction of a system. When facts, palpable and tangible facts of phenomenal spiritualism happen daily and hourly, and yet are denied by the majority of civilized nations, little chance is there for the acceptance of purely abstract metaphysics by the ever-growing crowd of materialists. So, again, Blavatsky is talking about this materialism that is taking over the planet because, again, the more materialistic, the more dense, okay, the less energetic you become the soulless man. You become the soulless woman. And they knew this. So let's go to the next image. Okay. And I wanted to read you guys this really quick quote. It is the lake that burneth with fire and brimstone, okay, the elements, into which those that are cast undergo a second death, apocalypse. This death is a gradual dissolution of the astral form into its primal elements, alluded to several times already in the course of work, but this awful fate can be avoided by the knowledge of the mysterious name, the word, says the Kabbalist. So, the lake of fire, again, religion wants to twist and turn things. They want to say, oh, all of you that sin, all of you that do X, Y, and Z, murders, immorals, sorcerers, idolaters, you're going to the lake of fire. But what you don't know is the lake of fire, the lake of fire is literally burning away the sins. The lake of fire is where you need to burn away the ego, is where you become the renewed person, where you become the renewed self. And the people that do not undergo the second death during their life. So if you're on your spiritual journey and you have not died many times, you have not gone through the apocalypse, you have not gone through these ego deaths, then this means your elements, your astral form, is slowly going to fade away. Your primal elements, your body, is going to fade away along with the astral self. And that means the only thing that's operating is the programming, is the astral soul, is the animalistic soul. So without the knowledge of the mysterious name, without the knowledge of the word, says the Kabbalist, you can never be the realized self. You are just doomed to be the NPC forever. Forever and ever. Let's go to the next. And like I said, I just wanted to emphasize, if the soul cannot escape the second death, the lake that burneth with fire and brimstone, they are always going to be stuck. They're always going to be stuck in this inferno. Okay, so the lake of fire is the gradual dissolution of your astral form, of your half animal self, and I also wanted to give you guys some book recommendations or things that you can read by Dr. Malachi Z. York, and I like to read his stuff. Currently reading some of his stuff, but this is what he talks about with the soulless men and women, okay? In the Rizikins and Elohim, he taught that certain humanoid species, emphasis on humanoid species, originated from other planets. Okay, they have spiritual capabilities, planetary bodies. They're genetically altered experiments, and they lack the spark of a soul. Okay, so again, not only are there species, we're basically, we are all mixed up. We're all mixed up with a lot of different species, if you want to call them ET species, alien species. We're all mixed up with their blood. And amongst those species that could be living amongst us or other beings on other planets, okay, they do not have a soul because again, they were just built, fabricated in a laboratory, okay? Even though they do possess mental and spiritual capabilities, they are genetically altered. They are experiments. Okay, another book title, another thing that you could read up on is Genetic Constructs and Clones. And what does it say? Discuss the creation of early laborers or hybrids by extraterrestrial beings. These entities were often described as biological earthy shells or automations meant strictly for physical labor rather than spiritual ascension. And we read that in the Anunnaki stories. We read that in the myths because again, they came to Earth and they brought their workers with them. The Anunnaki brought their physical laborers to Earth to mine for gold. And again, those beings were considered less. They were considered less because they were only meant for physical labor and so forth. And the last thing, a shift from the divine. In his framework, humans were said to possess a tripartite nature: body, soul, and spirit. Beings without a true spirit or soul are portrayed as soulless shells acting purely on instinct, ego, or under the influence of negative, destructive forces. So, guys, I just want to emphasize, I want to clarify that I believe, this is what I believe, that there are beings that again that are created and they are just naturally NPCs. They are just naturally soulless, okay? They were just created by humans or humanoids or ETs, and they had some sort of purpose, again, like physical labor. And if a person decides not to go on their evolutionary path, they decide not to have that second death, you can easily become, or they can easily become that NPC. They can easily become that shell of a person. All right, guys. Do I have anything more? Okay, so I also wanted to talk about vampires really quick. The vampires that we usually see are usually white. They're super pale, but honestly, guys, if we really saw who they truly were, they would be really dark skinned. And I talk about the cursed bloodline, the Canaanites, Enlil's offspring who drink the blood, especially melanated people's blood, the blood of the children, adrenochroming, harvesting again, so they can live for over 1,000 years or whatever. So this stuff has been going on for a very long time, and they also would be considered NPCs or soulless because again, they have sociopathic um they're sociopaths basically, and their capabilities are just very limited just to the darkness, just to evil, just to the astral body. And in past times, a lot of the corpses that came out of the earth, these corpses were acting and they were drinking the blood, but that was because the astral body had taken over. There was no soul left. So the astral body was just walking around, drinking the blood and all of that. So that's exactly what was happening. So that's what has continued to happen again. All right, guys. So the last two parts that I want to talk about again could be controversial, and you might not want to believe me. You might be triggered, and if that's you and that's the case, then just take it for what you're hearing and go do your own research and figure out why you're triggered or why you don't like what you're hearing. But again, I need to set the record straight and I have to say the truth that has come to me. So, the first thing I want to talk about again is Yakub, and Yakub is considered the evil scientist. He's the evil scientist that created the Edomites or created the Caucasians that were found in the Caucasus Mountains. And these beings, again, have animalistic qualities. These beings were created and they had pale skin. So if we look back at myths, if we look back at the historical facts, if we look at the sculptures around us, if we look at Egypt and the pyramids itself, we can see that most of the world was melanated, okay? This earth was a tropical planet. And that means that the skin of the people was not going to be white, okay? Even though they want to sell you the fake history of, oh, everybody's white because of this climate and that climate and everybody's yellow over here. No, that is not exactly how it was like. And this white color, this white skin, did not start to come in until Yakub created or grafted this devil. Okay? Am I saying that all white people are devils? No. There are black devils. There are black devils as well. And also, I want to mention that we are pretty much all mixed up. We're pretty much all hybrids at this point. We're hybrids of many species. That's why we have a reptilian brain. That's why we have the animal brain. And that's why we have the neocortex, which makes us the light being that makes us the new supreme being, the supreme light being on earth. But we need to know the roots of what has happened on earth, them doing experiments on beings, them trying to create experiments, abominations, and going against the divine feminine, basically. Going against the divine feminine by creating such things. Alright guys, so I'm gonna show you guys the video, and hopefully it'll play. Because I don't want you guys to think it just came from my mouth. It didn't come from my mouth. It came straight from the source. Straight from the source. Okay, guys, let's see if this video will play. So I'm gonna play this video and then we'll get into a quick mention of what I was talking about. Is it
Heard of the story of Yakub, the mad scientist?
Okay, let me turn up the volume. Is the volume gonna turn up? Turn it up, turn it up. Okay, maybe that might be too loud, but let's see.
Who, according to the Nation of Islam, actually created white people. Yeah, I know, sounds like something straight out of a comic book or a sci-fi movie, but for real, this is a central belief in the Nation of Islam theology. So here's the breakdown. Yakub, sometimes known as the Big Hit Scientist, was supposedly born around 6,600 years ago on the island of Patmos. That's right, the same island from the Bible's book of Revelation. And this guy wasn't your average kid. Legend has it that Yakub had a gigantic head and an even bigger brain, bursting with genius level intelligence. He was so brilliant, they say that by age 18, he'd already mastered every branch of science. But Yakub had a bit of a dark streak. He wasn't content with just being a prodigy. Nope. Yakub had ambitions that were pretty hardcore. He wanted to create a new rebellious race of people. Why? Well, he reportedly saw himself as a rival to God, determined to build a people who would rule through cunning, manipulation, and deception, basically the ultimate villains. So Yakub gathered thousands of his followers to set sail and landed on an island where he could begin his twisted genetic experiments. Through careful selective breeding, think ancient genetic engineering meets mad scientist type vibes, he started Yakub. Have you ever heard of the story of Yakub, the mad scientist who, according to the Nation of Islam...
Alright, we're good. Alright guys, so we can see that this guy really wanted to start a race of people. Again, this is where we see the introduction of pale skin. But again, I am not saying that all white people are the devil, because again, we're all mixed at this point. We're all hybrids and it really doesn't matter. Unless you see the traits, the animalistic traits in those people. That is what matters, is the characteristics and how they're acting and how they're maneuvering in this reality. Okay, I wanted to watch this video again. He is going to break down basically what Yakub did, so I highly recommend that you guys listen to the full thing. I'm gonna start playing it. So let's get into it. If it'll let me play it.
So talking into billions and trillions of years, the Caucasian race, their birth is just here of today almost. That took place 6,000 years ago. A black man, he is the father of the Caucasian race. His name was Yakub. They call him Jacob in English, but Arabic is Yakub. He discovered in the germ of the black man that there were two people, and that instead in the germ, he learned to divide the germ. And he said, if I can take the germ now, this brown one, and separate it from the dark one, I can make this brown germ here rule the black germ until the black germ produce one that is greater than I. And he, being a very wise scientist, he knew what was coming in the future. So he says, my man will live for 6,000 years, and he will rule his father. And after that, he says, then his brother will come from the east, and he will eat my man up after 6,000 years. So this man discovered this, as I first said, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, by the germ. And it still can be proven today that the black man have two people in it.
According to what Master Farad Muhammad taught me on the race question, the origin of the races, in the beginning of the races, they numbered around 4. And from these 4 races of people, they has produced many different types of people. But they are not, say, independent in their beginning. They came from one. We say today we have lots of various colored people all over the earth. From, we say, from brown to white. We are not all the same color due to intermixing with such colors as black, brown, yellow, and red and white. This has produced many other various colors. And the origin of it, according to the teachings of Master Farad Muhammad, to me, was from a scientist, a God. We see him. We see him as a God. Back 6,000 years ago, started we say a scientific, or I should say, a master grafting work on the human being to produce a new civilization, a new race of people from the original race of people, or aboriginal people. This man, Yaqub, who discovered in the germ of the black man that he had 2 people in him, and that he had learned through study and experimenting on germs that this second germ could produce a powerful people that would be able to rule that which they came from for around 6,000 years until the father or the aboriginal produces one superior to his man. And that was this, that he taken through experimental work on the germ of man, a people of what we call today a white race. But before he produced it, that white race, he produced it a brown race. He produced it a yellow race, and so on. There is his first grafting from the black man according to the teachings of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom we see him and know him today as being God in person. That this grafting In its first stage, he had a brown race of people from a black people. And it taken him, according to the teachings of God, 200 years to produce that brown race. And he kept up the process of killing off the browner or the darker one and marrying the lighter one onto the lighter one. For another 200 years, he had a yellow race of people. And in this length of time, these brown people were spreading over the area, I would say migrating over the earth to find them a home to themselves. And so when the yellow race was produced, he started too, migrating over the earth. And from the yellow race, about 200 years, this grafting kept in process. There was on this same islet, well, it was an islet he was on, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. At that time, 200 years, keeping up birth control law. This is what he established. He established it on this islet, and there was his lab that he was working, we call it a human lab, to produce his man. And from this yellow race, he had a white race 200 years later from them. And this was the end of his work. This was the man he was trying to get to. That was our white race. And that made it, in the total time of his grafting out of black, white, 600 years. And this figure tallies with the Bible's teaching of the man being created in 6 days. This days here you have means 100 years each, 600 years. And this also tallies with the creation of the universe. That's six, the whole entire universe, according to the Quran, was also created in 6 periods of time. And so Mr. Yaqub, the mighty scientist of that time, he produced his man on 6, because it did tally with the creation of the universe, and it was to this number that he could not further his work. And they would be masters, gods, to rule the earth and the people, everything of life, for 6,000 years. And at the end of 6,000 years, the Aboriginal people will have at that time produced another one, mightier than Yaqub in wisdom and knowledge. And he would be equal with that one that created the heavens and the earth. And he would have the power and the infinitive wisdom to make his word.
Alright, guys, so highly recommend that you guys go check out the Young Elders channel. So, it took Yaqub 600 years to graft the Edomites, to graft the so-called devils. And again, this is where we start to see the white pigment. This is again where we start to see that he wanted to create a group of people that would rule over the existing people on earth. So he created them to reign over those people, and that the end of the 6,000-year cycle, everything would go back. Everything would be restored back to its natural balance, and that's what we're seeing, that the natural, organic, the Aboriginal people are being restored back to their power. And again, I have to say that the people that were genetically modified, the groups of people that Yakub modified, you can find them everywhere. You can still find their bloodlines everywhere. Most of them are going to be your royal families. Most of them are going to be the cursed bloodlines. And they talk about this in the Bible because they had the leprosy and they could not get rid of the leprosy because it was not clean. They were not clean people. No matter how many times Jesus, okay, the quote unquote Jesus, they could never be healed, okay, because they were always going to be cursed, and there are many groups of them, including the last cursed race of people that Yakub specifically wanted to create, who had the white skin. And I think I'm gonna just play like maybe 1 or 2 minutes of this video. I don't want this video to be too long, but I came across this video. I feel like there's another video that I saw that was really prevalent, but she goes into why white people are called Caucasian, what's going on. So let's just watch maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. And if you guys are interested, I highly recommend watching this video. And if I find the other video, I'll link it down below. Because again, these are professors, these are people that did their research, they know what they're talking about. Because they're basically they're letting us know this information themselves, and that's what she's going over in this lecture.
Now, where exactly is the Caucasus, or are the Caucasus? Look for the red Google marker between the Black and the Caspian Seas. That shows you the place we're looking for, or the places we're looking for. And they're right on the border between Europe and Asia. Now, anthropologists have known what Caucasians look like in terms of taxonomy, type de Caucasus, or something like that. And these images come from...
Oh man. Always gotta do that, but it's okay. We're just gonna...
said to somebody, why are white...
Come on. Almost there, guys. I swear.
Look for the red Google. These images come from William Z. Ripley's Races of Europe, 1899, which was the Bible of race thinking in the early 20th century, was the Bible for the federal government in the era of closing down immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe. So those people standing behind my Brooklyn revelers, those people are or were Caucasians. Now, a word on naming. In both the popular literature and the scientific literature, the names of the people and the places slide around. So we talk about Caucasian, we talk about Circassian or Circassian, we talk about Georgian, and those terms function almost interchangeably outside of Russia. But in the historical period, that is before the 20th century, before the late 20th century, those people were synonyms of the most beautiful people in the world. And if you ask Georgians, that is from the Republic of Georgia, if you ask them now, is it true Georgians are the most beautiful people in the world? What do they say? Yes. I haven't met Circassians and I haven't met people from the Caucasus who call themselves Caucasian, so I don't know their answer. Within Russia, however, Caucasians are the subject of negative stereotype, as a young American living in Moscow explains in this snippet of a video.
Well, basically, what I want to talk about is what is the deal with the Caucasians in Moscow? And I'm not like a racist person or anything, especially because I'm black. Like, how am I going to be racist in Russia about other people? But it's not even that. I mean, like, all right, let me explain. There's always a huge group of them. And it's like, they don't socialize with the Russians there. It's hard to explain. Like, I have a great Caucasian friend from, he lives in Russia. Sorry, I forgot what countries he's from, and he's probably watching this video right now, but yo, it's early in the morning, I was drinking last night, I'm sure George understands. But I have a great friend named George, you know, he's Caucasian, and he doesn't even like the average Caucasian in Russia. Now, from what I hear from people, is that they're dangerous, they carry knives, they carry guns and all this stuff. And maybe that is, maybe that isn't. But I just want to know the deal, because apparently, from what I hear from a number of Russian people, that Caucasians are disliked more than blacks in Russia, like African black. And I'm like, holy crap, you know, they're hated more than us? I didn't think that was possible.
The view from Moscow. Now, in February 2014,
Alright guys, I'm gonna stop it there. And we can see that again, the race that was created, Yakub's created race, was in the Caucasus Mountains, and it seems like we can still see the remnants of their race there as that guy was giving his testimony of what he's seeing going on in Russia. And again, how we started to see this pale skin pigment in the rest of the world. And when he was describing them, we can see that they are, again, animalistic. They have no character. They are the soulless people, okay, that were not given rights to ascension, but eventually things change. Again, as we mix blood with, as people started to mix blood with the original people on Earth, this is when things start to get a little bit muddy, things start to be mixed up, but that is just a part of the story of humanity. Alright guys, I just wanted to end the video on 3 short videos, or 3 short TikToks on the Cabbage Patch Kids, because I think a lot of us need to know this story. We need to know what has been going on in America, why they have been populating America in different places with fake people, with the NPCs, with all of these characters, all of these people that were created in labs. So we're gonna watch this quick introduction of the Cabbage Patch, and hopefully it plays. Is it gonna play? Okay.
Strange 1980s toy, but the idea behind them is much older and much stranger. Before the dolls ever existed, old world postcards showed babies literally growing out of cabbages. Thousands of them. This imagery was common in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And here's where it gets unsettling. During that same time period, babies were actually being mailed through the U.S. Postal Service. Not figuratively, literally shipped like packages. There were also advertisements that looked less like adoption and more like shopping. People browsing, selecting children, almost like inventory. Now consider something else from that era. Old photographs show entire cities already built, but strangely empty. Massive streets, grand buildings, very few people. Some researchers ask a disturbing question. What if children were being removed from families and redistributed to repopulate these found cities? Cities often associated with Tartarian-style architecture. Places that look finished but under-occupied. Why do so many early city photos look more like set pieces than living communities? And why does this period coincide with mass orphaning, child relocation programs, and the normalization of adoption over birth? Some believe the cabbage imagery symbolized children with no recorded origin. not born here, but placed here. Most people think cabbage.
Alright guys, let's just continue with the last couple videos, and then we good. We all good.
Cabbage Patch Kids, these little cute dolls that everybody wanted. Well, it was a dark history behind this mystery. In this mystery, people believe that you can go pick your baby out of the Cabbage Patch field. So these babies was like crops, and they was harvested from the ground. The farmers would plant the seeds, and the people would go out in a Cabbage Patch field and pick whatever baby they wanted. All of your Cabbage Patch Kids was kept together until they was given a family. And they was mainly transported over to the United States of America. And these wasn't your everyday natural human beings. Remember, they was artificially created by the ones who planted them. So in other words, this would be Chucky coming to life. But your Cabbage Patch Kids, they can blend in and look like us. They look so realistic. And everybody in the United States wanted one of these Cabbage Patch Kids. We would take in these little dolls or kids and show love to them as if they was our children. And they would wear name tags with serial numbers on them. And you can choose whichever Cabbage Patch Kid you wanted. This is for entertainment purposes only. Part 2 coming soon. Hope y'all like the lecture.
And the last one about the guy.
This? Can somebody tell me? Serious. Who the hell is this? He wasn't even a real doctor. He wasn't a real doctor. This is unrealistic. So a fake unlicensed doctor was supposedly healing premature babies out of fear. How long was these babies at the fair? Think about it realistically. What kind of society or civilization is this? Think about it in today's terms. A fun fair is growing, healing premature babies illegally. And everyone knows about it so much that moms are sending their babies. This can't be real.
Alright guys, I just want to mention that this guy is not completely right. So at the fair, they were basically showing the Cabbage Patch Kids because that's what they used to do at the World Fairs. They would show all of the Tartarian civilization and all of the past ancient people's technologies there. And they were showing here the Cabbage Patch Kids like we saw in some of the images that he showed us.
And they was mainly
So that's what was going on. And again, these kids did not have families. These kids were fabricated. These kids were sent off to populate the America, most likely America and maybe Europe as well, but mainly America. So we can see again that there's many images of them. There's many images of them at the World Fairs. And again, these kids are basically the NPCs that are walking around because they don't have a bloodline, they don't have a family, they most likely do not have ascension rights. They don't have what is needed for an organic people. So guys, I wanted to mention that too, about the Cabbage Patch Kids. You guys might have already known about them because, just doing your own research or just TikTok basically showing us what's been going on, in the past American times with the Tartarian civilization. Is there any images that I want to show you? Okay, so the baby's coming through. Origin of Chucky. All of these kids just spawn out of nowhere. They literally spawn out of nowhere. Alright guys, I think that concludes today. That concludes today about the NPCs that I wanted to mention. And again, whatever information that I talked about, whatever information that you guys heard today that you're intrigued by, or maybe you were triggered by, I don't think anybody who's watching me is going to be triggered by anything I'm saying. because we know those people that are just overreactive and that are still led by ego and the senses and whatever. Yeah, guys, I wanted to show you guys this. I wanted to give you guys an overview of who the NPCs are. And again, it goes back to a lot of genetic experimentation, a lot of things like grafting, like cloning, again, and behind our backs in the beginning of civilization, because they're not going to teach this. They're not going to teach this in schools. They're not going to let you know what has been going on in the true history of humanity. Alright, guys, that's it for today. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later.